All right, welcome everyone to this week's Force Friday session. Today, as you can see, we're going to be talking about how do you basically draw at your best, right? Like, what does it mean to get there, to stay there? And we're also going to talk today about what potentially is stopping us from getting there in the first place, right? Um, First of all, I want to say hello to our other guests, of course. Diego, how you doing?
Hey Mike, how are you? I'm fine.
Good.
Today is gonna be a great stream.
Yes, of course. Mr. Swenley, how are you?
Yeah, great. Excited for the stream as always. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Thank you. And last but not least, let's go to gallery here. Ratunjay, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing it on Friday the 13th. Hello, guys.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. I
Yeah.
see you got a drawing back there now, right?
Oh, yeah. This one I
That's
actually
cool.
posted on Instagram today.
Awesome. I love it.
Tarzan drawings.
Yeah, it's cool.
Disney
All right,
toys.
guys. So let's see. Let's get back to Photoshop here. As I was saying today, we're going to try to figure out how to always draw at your best. So what inspired this? These don't kind of come out of left field. The reason we come up with these subjects is, for me, it's typically stuff that's happening in the mentorships or something that really strikes me from my past that I want to share with you guys, or it's a conversation that all four of us have during the week. We do meet every week and have obviously meetings about this stuff. So for me, today's subject comes from in mentoring. Very often I'll have students come in with their homework and they're kind of shielding, I guess, almost their embarrassment of like, I didn't do enough work this week, or they're like, I know I don't really want to show you this, but I got to come in with some kind of work. So I just listed here some of the things that I'll hear students say. I didn't do as well this week as maybe in the past or as the week before as my usual, or maybe I think I could do better than this. And it's kind of frustrating, right? I didn't do that as well as I think I should be doing. I ran out of time. I'm bored. I'm kind of bored with this. I have actually gotten that. I don't want to do this subject anymore. Can we move on to the next one? I'm frustrated, right? I'm disappointed, or I can't focus, right? So those things led to this conversation of, how do you stay in, peak performance? And this is, I guess if there was some area of skill in the world that this reminds me of, this conversation would probably be Olympians or athletes, right? They all have their methods and they've got, coaches and millions of dollars worth of money behind them to make them the best that they can be. So when the gun goes off or the bell rings, they are at peak performance, right? They're doing their best work possible at that moment. So what I want to try to talk to you guys about today, and we want to try to crack, is, well, how do we do that, right? How can we get to a place where we can sit down and draw at our peak performance every time we sit down? What does it mean to be able to do that, right? So, and feel free, of course, you guys that are here already in the chat, if you've got any of your own suggestions, please write it down. We're obviously always looking at the chat. And before we go any further, just a quick reminder, please, if you are enjoying the channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell, right? If for any other reason out of pure laziness, make sure you hit it so you don't have to worry about it, right? I know I do that with the channels I subscribe to, just so I don't have to pay attention to what's coming up and I get notified about it, right? So let's get to the beginning of this. So we have our reasons. Before we get into how to do this, I thought I would like to share with the group today. I want to hear from you guys and from the audience, what typically stops us. I think it's kind of good to understand what's stopping us before we can understand how to solve it, right? So again, in the audience, please type down what you think your challenges would be there. Oh, and to that note, for those of you that are new, we do have likes and giveaways. So if we do break 150 likes, then we do have a giveaway for that. So yeah, if we get to that point, that would be fantastic. Okay, so going back up here, let's talk as a group about what do we feel stops us from doing our best. All right, so I'm gonna head us over back to the gang. All right, so any of you guys want to jump on that one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would
will take
say,
the first
like,
one.
for me,
Okay, you go, Swenny. You go, Swenny. You go, Swenny.
thank you, David. Thank you. I do my best. I promise you, Diego. So I would say for me, one thing I noticed is like the first thing that came up is laziness. But I think if I do a deeper analysis, more than laziness, for me is like a lack of vision or lack of clear goals. Like I notice even now, if I don't set clear goals and review them consistently, it's easy for me to get lazy or just get conformed with mediocrity.
Mediocrity, man. Mediocrity. That's a great word and something I'd like to even dig into maybe in a future meeting. But you're right? Like, so what helped, just to clarify that, you knowing what you want helps get you away from just doing mediocre work, because at least there's a goal, and the goal drives you, right? It's what I call the carrot, right? Like I've got a carrot, I've got something that I'm actually trying to get and go after, and that drives you, period, right?
Yeah, indeed. Like vision helps, and I think in general, vision helps you to be disciplined because you know it gives you a focus. You know, like if you don't have a focus, for me, it's difficult to be disciplined about doing something.
Yeah, I find that when I'm drawing, like lots of the posts you guys see me put on Instagram will be me doodling at night when I'm watching TV. So is it my best? Probably not my best, right? I'm not totally, focused in that space. And I think what frustrates me, for me personally, is to exactly what you said. I don't necessarily have an overarching goal. I think I do better when I get on some kind of track and I'm experimenting or trying to learn something. It could be something as simple as a new brush in Procreate. And I'm like, I want to play around with this and see how far I can take it. At least even there's some kind of small goal to go after that drives the improvement instead of just doodling. The doodling kind of becomes aimless, and I think with the aimlessness comes the work's not as high a quality bar as it could be, right?
Yeah, now that you like mentioned brushes, that's also like proved to be like one of the distractions for me at least, and I believe like a lot of the people in the chat and really face this. So I just like got a new brush set and I just would like to try everything, but it proves to be like I have already like really good brushes. So
right.
Yeah, it's just like something we talked about like in the Deadly Sins about the greed and everything. So yeah, this could be one of the distractions, and the second one's are games.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, for me it's TV and movies, definitely. But yeah, definitely it could be a distraction. You can get into I think that was Diego's, right? It was like or one of you had like gluttony or something like that, right? You can go too far down the path of, oh my God, I need to try out every darn brush. You'll notice, not to get into big brush conversation, but again, most of the pros out there, they work with like 3 to 5 brushes and they just stick with them, right? And then you get to know that really, really well. And that allows you to improve your skill. You kind of have to do something over and over time, I think, to get to great performance, right? And that's not even one of the subjects, but I think that's right. It's repetition, right? Repetition is what gets you drawing better and gets your skill improved,
Yeah. I'm going to give you something that it really helps me. I'm sorry, I'm gonna eat your brain right now with what I'm about to say. That is something that helped me when I'm about to make excuse for anything. It's like I say to myself, you're making an excuse. So if you know you're creating an excuse for something, then you're not doing what you need to do because you don't want to do it. So if you don't want to do it, it's over. The game is over. If you really want to get, for example, you need to go to a friend's house. That this is really, and they call you and say, can you come to my house? Want to talk for a little bit on the phone? And you say, oh, I don't have any time right now. I'm super busy. Super busy. 24 hours. You can't stop breathing. No, you don't want to talk to that people, right? So that's an excuse you're creating. So if you know you're making an excuse for something, then you should think about why you're creating that excuse. Is it because you don't want to do something, or because you don't want to do it now? And if you don't want to do it now, why do you don't want to do it now? So every time you're making an excuse, think about that. You don't want to do it, or you don't want to do it now. And if it's now that you don't want to do it, then why? What do you have better to do? You gotta go to play a game, and that's more important than perfecting your skills in drawing, or because we are talking about drawing, but you can apply this to whatever you want. But you want to go play a game, you want to go play League of Legends, like 4 hours. Imagine if you were drawing for those 4 hours. That was one of the reasons I stopped playing, being like a big player of games, because they were eating my time. I was playing World of Warcraft like 8 hours a day, and that's a lot of time. So I changed World of Warcraft for drawing. Look at me.
Yeah.
So funny.
It kind of goes back to Swenley's thing of, I think if you know that you have a goal, then when you go, well, you know, I don't want to do this thing, I want to go play World of Warcraft, and you go, you know what, but I have this goal, right? And this goal is really important to me. I'm going to try and go after it, right? So I think it take, you know, like there's a lot of, this is something I'm always trying to figure out myself, is like, what's, I guess, like, what's your most high reason for being on this planet? You know, like what am I here for? What am I trying to accomplish with my life, right? You got some big overarching goals, and maybe you got some really big morals that you try to live by. They could, if you allow them to, right, you can use them to help determine what you're going to do or not do. You know, in the end, to me, this is all this crazy brain game. I have to say, what I learned by the time I was 30 was like, wow, this is just all a game in my head. Like all of it, all of life comes down to, it's like, what do I think about the things that I'm thinking about? What's my perception of them? It's up to me how I look at them and what meaning I give them or don't give them, and what am I going to do with them or not do with them. And it's kind of weird, but once you hit that understanding, some people don't want that because it makes you realize how much responsibility you actually have for your life. And I think there are people who don't want that responsibility either. You know, I'm kind of going off topic here, but I think you got to take responsibility for you trying to get into the right mind space, right? And drive, right? The determination then to keep going after the thing that you want to go, going back to Swenley with having a goal versus it stopping you. You know, the common thing, the one I was kind of expecting one of us to talk about, and since it hasn't come up, I'm going to throw it in the pot, is fear, right? I would say one of the main things that stops students from peak performance is being afraid, right? And we've talked about fear in some of the prior videos, but I would say fear is probably the biggest one. Fear of embarrassment, of yourself around peers or even your instructors. One of the big fears is of, I don't really think I can pull this off, right? Meaning you don't have enough belief in yourself to think you can do it. Sometimes the flip side is I'm actually afraid of being successful, right? I'm afraid that if I get this and I do well at it, it's going to change my life in some way that I don't want to change it, right? So that's kind of an interesting one to think about, because you think normally this is such a simple solution to solving the fear thing, but sometimes the fear thing is not being afraid of the embarrassment or the fear of drawing. It's the fear of actually doing well with it. So that's a tricky one, and one to really be aware of. That's usually a little bit more subversive, you know? And, you know, the fear thing, I'll always come back to, just keep in mind that you're just drawing, you know, and everyone's going through this stuff. No one's going to get hurt. It's your emotions more that you got to be aware of than anything, and being able to sort of deconstruct them down into understanding what is the fear even about in the first place, and recognizing that it's not real. It's real in that you feel it, right? So it's a real emotion, but it's not physically real. It's not a real thing to be afraid of, you know? And I think that's always a challenge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hilarious to think, you know, why actually people fear. Do you have to like keep your drawing beside Mona Lisa to like represent in front of the world? I mean, it's just a drawing, you know, and you always use that kind of like famous metaphor, you know, you always do that. We are not hunting sharks, right? So
Right.
even if you just like fail with it, you're not going to die. Nobody's going to insult you. One of the things that I've seen, you know, with people around me is they have to like show off. They have to like, yeah, if we don't do it right, we won't be able to post it to Instagram or like on social media. But why do you always have to like keep posting? Just do it.
Yeah.
Do it for yourself. You know, that is what your goal should be. And if it turns out good, and if you feel good about it, then go post. You know, nobody's stopping you.
Yeah. And if you don't feel good about it, post it also.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one thing that to me is cool about fear is that sometimes we have the fear to, for example, now that we're talking about posting things, is, oh no, I can do it better. I can do it better. I'll wait until I send my homework to the teacher or whatever, because I can do it better. I can do it better. I can do it better. And years goes by, and yeah, you will ever always going to do it better, right? Because you never will know everything. The moment you know everything, you die, or
Right.
maybe the day after, or the day before. So
Yeah.
you don't wait until you know everything, because you will never know everything about anything. So
You know,
if you are drawing, start drawing. If you need to send homework, do your best. Like when we say do your best, is like don't be a dick. Like say, okay, let's go. No, take your time, work, think about it, learn what the teacher taught you, and apply it to your drawings. But don't wait until the last minute before the class begins to send your drawing, because that won't give time to the teacher also to prepare for your feedback. You know, we are not gods. We were talking with Mike about this before. We're not gods. If you send me your drawing 2 days before the class, I can analyze it and think, okay, what's the best thing I can tell the students about the problem is going through now. If you send me a minute before the class, I just watch at it, and I can handle it, but it won't be the same answer, right?
right.
I can prepare exactly what you need, right? So yeah, fear can go both ways. Can go, oh, I won't do anything, or I'll do it, but I do it like that. No, think about it. It's the same as we talk about excuses. Think about it. Why? And once you're aware of what you're fearing, like what you're scared of, uh, be conscious about, is that a real reason to be scared? Like, people are going to say you drawing looks bad. Who cares, right? Who's telling you that? Your sister? Okay. Your friend? Okay. You know, there are people that are going to like it, and focus on those.
I think, to give everyone a reality check, as most of you know, like I turned 50 this year. My birthday was in February, which is when I did the whole skydiving thing. And, obviously, uh, there's a bunch of you right now on this channel, and my audience is usually people from like 20 to 35, let's say. So most of you are younger than me. I think when you get around my age where you're hitting 50, you realize like, wow, I'm not immortal, right? I'm gonna die someday. And you don't think about that when you're younger. And I think if we're gonna use fear in a positive way, be aware someday it will be over. You've got this shot here in your life and you want to make the most of it. This sounds really corny, but there's this line in Lord of the Rings that always sticks with me that Gandalf says to Frodo. It says something like, it's not about the time you have, it's about what you do with the time that's been given to you, you know? And that always sticks with me. I have to say that's a line that comes up in my head at least once a week. It's like you only have a certain amount of time in your life and you want to make the most of it. What are you going to do with it? Right. And that's not to say, I mean, I watch TV every night. It's not to say I'm like on, 24/7. Like, that's not what you want to do either. It's okay that you relax, but time is limited. It doesn't feel like that because we go in and day out and so on, but I've got kids. I can tell you, when you get married and you have children, all of a sudden it's like, boom, time disappears. I don't know, my oldest daughter's 20. I don't know where 20 years went. It's like 20 years of my life just kind of flew past me. So it goes really fast and you want to make the most of that time. So if you're going to be afraid of anything, be aware that your time is important. It has an end, right? Like, there will be an end. So make the use of it. If you're going to be afraid of anything, be afraid of the fact that there is an end and you're not using your time to do what you want with it, right? You can't be lazy all the time or not motivated or scared all the time. You got to move forward, right? You got to do something with it. So Anyway, I don't want to get too, like I said, grandiose here, but it is real, folks. Like, be aware of it. All right, let's move on. So I kind of broke this down into subjects of how we can try to get focus. All right. So that's the goal. I think that what we're actually talking about here is trying to get focus, right? You want to always be able to draw at your best. You have to know how to sit down at your table or easel or computer, whatever you're drawing at, and bring focus to the present, right? You need to hit this sense of presence. So how do we get there? Okay. So I would say number one, and this is kind of a simple overview and kind of obvious, I think, as well, but you have to be in good health. It goes back to the age thing I just talked about in life. Most of you hopefully are healthy. And, you know, when you're not, like, you know, let's say you break your arm or something like that, right? Then you start to have gratitude, right? For like, damn, I didn't realize how important my arm actually was, or my wrist is, because I'm normally walking around not in pain, or I don't feel sick, or I don't have a fever, or I don't have the flu, right? Something that really takes you out of that. So I want you to be aware. I want to bring sensitivity to your understanding of things here, to recognize that your health is actually really, really, really important, right? So I want to open to the group here. You know, is there anything from a health standpoint that you do, or maybe you don't do? Maybe you're like, damn, you know what? I don't really think about my health. I do take it for granted, or no, I'm really aware of it. You know, I try to make sure I'm taking care of myself in my own personal way to make sure I'm okay. And that helps me also draw better, right? Because I feel good. I physically feel good. Anything that you guys do or don't do?
Yeah, about eating, you are what you eat, and that's the.
Yeah,
I'm 42. Like I'm getting
yeah,
closer to this guy, this great
yeah.
guy, or this. I'm getting closer there. So, uh, the thing is I realize that that's really true. You are what you eat. So
Yeah,
if you, this is not against any brand. We're not getting paid to kill or murder any brand. But if you're eating all day McDonald's, if you're living off Coke, and I mean the drinking,
yeah,
and if you're eating like candy all day, and if you, I don't know, once again, when you're making excuses, you know that you're making excuses. When you're eating bullshit, you know that you're eating garbage food. So be aware of that. If you're all day eating that things, of course you're gonna feel like heavy, all tired up. You don't want to eat this. You want to do that. So yeah, you are what you eat. So drink water. Drink water. This is so stupid. Drink water. Just have a bottle of water there next to you and drink water
yeah.
all day long. Like no
Just
no more than 2-3 liters. But,
32
drink
ounces
water.
a day.
Yeah, and that sounds funny. Like water, yeah, just water, just drink water. Now eat, of course, eat, and all the things you need to do. But drink water. People forget about drinking water. Also
Yeah,
breathe.
it's kind of
People
funny.
forget.
You know, I'm a person who, in the past, I would say if you had asked me 2 or 3 years ago, I could go on like half a glass of liquid a day. Like, I didn't drink much beverage at all. I'm not a soda drinker. I never drank like sugary drinks or anything, but in the last year or two, I'm like, I've got this water bottle. It's 32 ounces. I try to get through that bottle every day to know I get through it. So that means I'm drinking 8 to 10 times more than I used to before. And I feel better for it. You know, I feel healthier, you know, for it. I think I look healthier because of it as well. You know, it helps with, you know, it's like your cells, your skin. And again, I don't want to get into the giant science of all this, but I think it's like just being aware. I just want to bring awareness that if you're not healthy, it's going to affect the way you work. You know, as simple as I'm sick, I can't do my homework this week. I'm sick, right? Like, how do you get around that? By the way, on a simple, really quick side note, a little trick I learned from one of the jobs I was at is one of my colleagues mentioned zinc. And I got to tell you, man, for me, that is a lifesaver. Like, anytime I feel a cold or something coming on, I'll pop a couple of zinc pills, and it doesn't matter how sick I feel that night. The next morning, I feel like nothing ever happened. So zinc for me was like a huge saver. That and lots of water has been great. Any of you guys, are there things you're aware of that you don't do? Like I kind of go in and out of exercise. I try to get on, we have an elliptical at our house, or where I live is a pretty nice walk. So I'll try to do that and try to get out 3 to 4 days a week and do like a half an hour of just getting cardio in. You know, any of you guys either know you're not doing it, or do you have some kind of specific routine around health?
During
Yeah.
quarantine, sorry, TJ, I'll make
Yeah.
it brief. During quarantine, that we've been there, people stopped doing a lot of things. People stopped walking because you cannot go out and stay out there. So I started to do Tai Chi. Actually, Tai Chi Qigong, which is specifically a healthy type of Tai Chi. It's not a fighting Tai Chi. Actually, it is based on the Tai Chi Chuan, that is the fighting art, the martial art. But this is for health. And it's maybe, I don't know, maybe either 30 minutes a day or every 3 days a week. I don't know. But do something. And it's like when you start doing it, it's like, oh, I need to do this. It's once again, it's like will to do it. Like, let's do this. And when you end it, when it's over, you say, this feels good. So you thank yourself for making that effort. So yeah, as you may see, I'm not a well sport guy, like a football player or whatever. But you need to make your body stay healthy. That's to me, it's important. You
What
go.
about you guys?
Yeah, just to be on like a mental side of the health, I am having like schizophrenia, and like I'm having two big problems. So one is I'm having schizophrenia, which is basically, you know, you imagine things and peoples and very real. You know, you can read a lot of that on the internet. And the second thing is I'm having a heart and hole. So, you know, I cannot do like a lot of cardio, and, you know, I cannot like jump. I maybe like I do it, you know, I used to do it in college days, and, you know, I go to parties and, you know, dance a lot. But, you know, as you grow, you know, as age comes, you know, the problem's getting worse and worse. So yeah, I actually, but still I exercise because, you know, I would imagine that, you know, if I don't have like schizophrenia, I would be on a much bigger level in like my skills. So yeah, I just like want to spread the word that, yeah, just take care of you, because this is really, really like important, taking care of your mental health and the physical health at the same time. You know, don't be lazy, just start over, you know, just starting is like a really, really like the big deal. When once you start, you're just like, yeah, just let me do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And when you just get you know, just get in the park or whatever, just doing some cardio, and when you start, you know, 10 minutes just pass it by, you know, like, just, yeah, just let me do for 10 more minutes. And this is how you like start every time basically. So yeah, just take care of health. It is really, really important, guys.
Yeah, you know, doctors in general will tell you just get in a half an hour of walking. You know, if you can get in 4 days a week, I think the average they want you to try to get is 150 minutes of cardio. So 4 or 5 days of like half hour. That's amazing. If you can just do that, you'll be in good like physical shape. You got your heart working. You don't have to do super high stress training. Just to get out and walk is excellent. You know, especially nowadays. I think one of you guys mentioned in the chat, you know, that we're all sitting down all the time, right? Yeah, you just got to get up. You know, you got to get up and walk around. Your body wants that. We don't live in a day and age where we're all on farms, you know, out in the fields anymore, right? So you got to get up. You know, you got to get up and out. And you have to make a focus of that. I'm guilty of that too. It's very easy for me to have days where I skip because I'm just so busy. And I usually try to exercise in the afternoon, and I'm like, I've got too much other work to do, and I'll skip it. You know. So I have to really stay on top of that. And there's apps that can help motivate you about goals and tracking that stuff, you know, if you need that. And we'll talk more about that in this meeting later, but I think it's really important to try to at least get that half an hour in. Can't get half an hour and get 15 minutes in. You know, sometimes I'll go on the elliptical for 15 minutes and just put it at the tougher level. I'm like, that's better than me not doing anything, right? How about you, Swanley?
A challenge for you all, like for the next week, and it's super simple, right? It's super simple, and you do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. Whatever. You don't need to say anything or do anything about it. Every day, just take 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Sit down and just breathe. The only thing you need to do. Sit down on a chair or on the grass or whatever you can and breathe. You don't do anything other than breathe. Just breathe. And you'll feel after that week how you change the way you're thinking, and how your days start changing, because you're just giving 2 minutes to yourself and to your head. Like, just breathe for 2 minutes. Like, starting
Yeah, that's true.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
go ahead.
cool. I would like to connect to that, because one thing that came up when Mike mentioned health is just rest. We live in a time and age where, it's almost like you feel guilty when you relax. Like you always have to be doing and doing and doing, and at a certain point, like it's like a machine in a production factory. If that machine is just producing all the time, it's going to break down. You need to give it a downtime to perform maintenance on it. So rest is something that I've become more aware of lately, and it really helps you to focus better, because if you're tired and your mind is all over the place, like Diego said, you need to take time to relax. That's also important for your health.
Yeah, that's really good. I've definitely been guilty in my past, and still even today, I would say, of, getting over some kind of sense of, I guess, guilt of thinking I'm supposed to be doing something right now. Right. And I think it's good to maybe even put on the schedule, this is rest time. Like, I have a crazy calendar every week that's super, super booked. So sometimes I do that. I'll put on the calendar, I'm not doing anything for these couple hours, or I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. I can go sit and read, but it's me time. I'm going to do it whatever I want with it, but it's not going to be work related, and it's got to be some kind of relaxation. I think that's really, really good. Yeah. And
Yeah,
like you
and
said,
from a learning standpoint, like I was just reading a book on how to learn a while ago, and actually, like your brain needs time to process every time you learn something new. And actually, the author of the book recommended that like you study just before you go to bed, because the process of, it's called consolidation, and that process happens primarily at night. Actually, when you're resting, whenever you're resting, your brain has time to process the new things that you've learned. So it's again, it's super important, and the rest is an activity as well. It's doing. It's a verb. It's an active word. You're resting.
Yeah. What I was about to say. Sorry. What I was about to say is, try not to switch. Stop working, then go play in a game that it also requires a process of working of your head. Say, okay, I'm gonna relax now, and I'm going to play 2 hours of StarCraft. No, that's not resting. It's switching. You're just switching your work. It's like the machine that was building a car. They turn it off, they turn around and start building motorbikes, and it's not stop. So that's what I said. The challenge: 2 minutes, just sitting down and breathing. That's all. You're not doing it. You're not thinking about what you need to go buy in the store. Nothing. Just stop. Your brain shuts down and you just breathe.
Yeah, it's Casey Bros 151 said something in the chat I thought was really interesting, which scientists are saying that sitting is the new smoking, right? So that's a really interesting thought, right, for all of us. Just be, you can almost create that as visualization for yourself to motivate. Like, when I'm just sitting and I'm sitting for so long, it's like I'm just smoking more, right? Like, you got to get up. I mean, that's why nowadays, for those of you that aren't aware of this, there is a trend on like standing desks, right? Because it's healthier for you actually than sitting down all the time. There's desks. I used to have one at my last job that had a motor in it. I could raise the desk if I wanted to stand during the day versus sitting. So again, something else to consider for your health. So let's go on to the next step, and that is the mind. I actually want to talk here first. So mindset in general, I think, is a really big deal. And we've been talking about that for the last month and a half. But here I want to bring the focus towards the performance of it, right? So, having the right mindset for performance, I think, is key. When we decided to make this week's subject about performance, it really did bring me back to my college days, where I remember thinking to myself, I was already kind of aware, like, talking about the life and death thing in a smaller scale. I was thinking, all right, I'm in school. I'm in my third year of school. I really only have X amount of weeks and classes ahead of me, right? Even if it's 40 classes, right? 50 classes, like the next 2 years. It really matters that I don't miss class, that I show up for class, that I show up awake and aware, well rested, as some of you guys said in the chat. Super important. And that I'm focused and trying to start understanding, like, why do I have better days and I have worse days? And if I come in and I'm not doing well, what can I do to change that, right? If I come in and I know I'm not doing that well, how do I get out of that funk, right? I think that's probably one of the most important things we could share today. I think is every time you sit down and you're drawing, you kind of know, you get a sense of, I'm not in this. How do I get in it? Especially if your time is limited, which for most of us it is, right? For me on the schedule, this is my time to sit and draw for myself or for you guys, right? Through Instagram. Like, how do I bring myself to the table to do, the best work, right? So for me, there's lots of different things I'll do in there, and some of them are going to be on the next slide, so I don't want to talk about them yet. But mentally, I have to get myself engaged. I have to get myself focused. Meditation, not like you have to sit and meditate every time you sit and draw, but the concept in meditation of being able to clear your mind of other things, I think is really important. So you want to be, for me, I try to really make sure I'm not getting, the other stuff's not going on. I'm trying to get my head clear of all that other space and try to focus on the task at hand. If I can't do it, it might not even be worth sitting down at that point, to tell you the truth, right? If I'm really so distracted, then that might be a wash, Sometimes I can use the physical act of the drawing itself to finally pull me into the focus, One of the ways for me, which I'm just going to bring it up, it's on the next slide, but is if I can get into the physicality of it, I can kind of slow time down, right? So all of a sudden, to me, everything's like, right? Like everything comes down to me at the piece of paper, time slows down, and I can focus on the minutia of, I can hear and feel and touch the paper and the wax and the graphite on the page. That will finally distract me from everything else that's going on around me. Really brings me down into the moment. It's like I want to get tunnel vision, basically, right? I want to enforce tunnel vision because I want to get in on this thing, right? To help me get in that mindset, right? And then all the stuff we talked about in the past, about what am I thinking about? I don't want to be distracted by these other thoughts. I don't want to have negative internal dialogue, right? Really big. I can brainwash myself here. I can be goal driven here, right? All the stuff that like I said, we've discussed in the past, So to lead that to the next slide, and then I'll share with the group here. I'm going to go back here to Photoshop. Mrityunjay put this together, which I thought was a perfect segue here, which is, what is this thing called, right? Nowadays, it's called flow. When I was a teenager, and this is the 80s and 90s, it was called in the zone, right? Get in the zone. And then someone mentioned this in the live chat, the idea of just do it, right? So Nike came up with this giant slogan called just do it, which was huge, right? Still around, but it was such a huge, campaign. And then you had like Michael Jordan attached to all of this, right? So it's, this just became like this huge thing. So now, then it was called mindset. Now it's been called flow. But the goal is like, how do you get in the zone, or what I call presence, right? Like, how do I get into presence? How do I get into this space, right? You guys have anything you want to throw in on that one?
I just want to be clear about this, that like, for example, you mentioned meditation. I think like what you do is that's like meditation for you. Let's be clear about this. Meditation is like really, really boring. And I know like a lot of you guys, feel the same. Like sitting at the place, eyes closed, and here. I know that's like a pretty big deal for many of the people, but for me, it's like pretty boring. So I think that what I do is, for example, when I draw or paint, whatever, that's the kind of space that I meditate for. So I just like don't have to like force myself sitting like this and closing the eyes and hearing to people's voices and everything. So yeah.
To your point, I think that, what does it mean to be in flow? Some of you may have never, well, I'm sure all of you actually, believe it or not, have experienced it, and you may not even be aware you experienced it. But a good example of it, I think, is when you lose track of time, right? Hopefully all of you have had something go on in your life where you could be at a party, right? And you're like, damn, 3 hours went by. I can't believe it. And then there's other parties you've gone to and you're like, damn, when is this party over? Right? Like, I just want to get out of here. We've only been here 45 minutes. This is going to go on for another 2 hours, right? What am I going to do here? Flow is the other party. It's the party where you lose track of time. So if the party is drawing, If the party is bike riding or doing a sport, reading, right? Whatever it may be, it could be playing a video game, actually. It could be that you're in the flow state of that thing. You lose track of time because you are so engaged in the activity itself. And that engagement, that connectivity to that environment, and that activity is what creates flow, like you're just in the zone. Yeah.
That won't work as a meditation in the healthy way, right? Because yeah.
Well, it's flow. Video games is still flow.
Yeah,
I'm a huge gamer. I haven't been playing games a lot in the last like year or two, but I grew up with like Atari and all that stuff. I've definitely put thousands of hours of my life into games. It's still flow. The goal, I just want you guys to be aware what flow feels like. And you want to see if you can pull that off with drawing. Can you get into the place where there's nothing else going on? Imagine, if you are a gamer, imagine giving your drawing as much attention as you do in a game, or you go see a good movie, right? Like, one of the things I would bring up in my drawing classes is, the model and I are competing with $200 million budget films. And I'm asking you to give the model as much attention as you do that film, right? Or even that game. And to have the sense of awe, right? The shock and awe of the model that you would get out of a $200 million budget movie, right? So we've all been, in a way, desensitized by how amazing games and film are. And here you are drawing at a piece of paper, and you do have the ability to bring that same sense of focus, into that space, right?
Someone in the chat mentioned about it's a long time ago, but mentioned about like spending time watching tutorials, like drawing tutorials. Imagine if you spend that amount of time, because people are watching like I don't know, 300 courses or tutorials on YouTube, and imagine spending that time actually just watching one and practicing what that tutorial is teaching you. You already know that one. Then you can move to the next one. But if you watch all of them, like all the video tutorials on drawing that are on the net, you will never go to draw. You will just be a perfect tutorial watcher. That's even a degree? A tutorial watcher or viewer? How you call it? So you need to know that watching things is not learning. It's just watching. If you watch a karate movie, you won't be you will know karate. You won't know it because you just watch it. You need to go there, practice, get your moves, and everything. You don't watch a Bruce Lee movie and go out to the street and kill somebody by kicking his head because you don't know how. You cannot even raise your leg, right? So be aware of those things.
One of the things that I used to do when I want to like concentrate so much on certain type of work is I put down like everything. So with everything, I also mean with music. Many it's okay if you put like light music or like concentrate like music something. So it may work for you, but it doesn't really work for me. So what I used to do, I just like used to like quit say, quit sit quiet in my room and just like draw. And like what Mike mentioned, I just like want to feel like the texture of the paper and the roughness of the graphite and how like it's flowing on the paper. And music really like doesn't let me go like that deep actually. So I just put down everything like music and everything just and I've been comfortable and I just like try to be alone with the paper and the drawing tool. And it's like a really, really good feeling. You should try it out.
I think for anything that you do, if you can do that thing I was talking about of kind of shutting everything down, like I was just thinking about, let's say you're weightlifting, right? Like it's one thing to sit there and like bench press and just kind of pound out weight, but it's another thing to like lift something and feel the weight in your hands and feel the gravity, feel the coldness of the metal bar. To me, I think touch is something I don't pay attention to. So when I do pay attention to it, it helps me click in. It's like, oh, here's this other sense that I'm not normally on a day-to-day basis bringing to my mind's consciousness, right? And by doing that, it brings me back in. we all like shower or bathe, right? So when you do that, instead of thinking about other things, again, imagine what the soap feels like, what the temperature of the water is like, right? Anytime I think you really focus down with all of your senses, use your sense. I guess what I'm getting at here is use your senses, right? If you really use all your senses, that's a great way of getting yourself into the mindset, into the zone. Okay, we're running.
Awareness.
Yeah, it's awareness. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're coming into the last piece of this, and I think there'll be a lot of great conversation here. It's already come up quite a bit, I've seen in the chat today. That is, what's a routine that we can build around this, right? So, as I said, I was going to mention later the idea of touch. One of the things that's a habit of mine is before I'll draw, lots of times I'll take my hand and actually swipe it across the surface of the piece of paper. Somehow that grounds me, like I touch the paper with my hand and I'm like, this is the space I'm going to draw on. This is the texture that I feel. This is what the graphite will be touching. It like I said, it grounds me. Michael Phelps always comes to my mind in this conversation, the American swimmer, the Olympic, gold medalist. I forget, he won some kind of crazy amount of gold medals, right? And all these guys and girls, I just mean athletes, they have a thing that they do. There's always like process. It could be a song, for instance. Somebody mentioned music before. It could be a song, that drives you. I've used music before, definitely as a way to focus or as a motivator, or to Mrityunjay's point, depending on how complicated something is. Sometimes I can't have anything. Like I want to get so in the zone, I can't have anything going on but me and that thing, And you learn that on your own, like what works for you doesn't work for you. But we've had schedule come up in the chat. I noticed a few of you talked about schedule. It's another big thing, right? Like I live out of Google Calendar. My whole life is on Google Calendar, right? I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what it is. It does, as long as I put in space for myself there, I'm okay, and I think you have to control that. We talked about time a lot today, and that we all have an end. Right. So you want to be aware of what you do with your time and put time specifically aside for, as Swenley said, rest, right? Like rest is an activity. Like that's really important for you to get some maintenance done, right? Say I got to draw. I want to put in a certain amount of time, get it on the calendar. I don't know how I would do without the calendar, quite honestly. I would probably just be watching TV and playing video games, quite honestly, if I didn't put it on the calendar, right? So, I think a calendar is really important. I have music on here. Some of you might want to get your, morning cup of coffee and put on some kind of music in your house to kind of get yourself in the zone. We talked about tactileness. This funny little dragon sharpener, I put that there just as a sense of that might be a physical thing you do. Don't just go and sit and sharpen a pencil. Like feel the friction of the wood, rotating in the sharpener. See the wood like come and curl out of the blade. Even be aware like, oh, a sharpener is actually made of a razor blade that's screwed into this thing that's round that you shove a pencil into, right? You might not even think about that, but that's what you're doing there. You're basically rubbing the wood of the pencil up against this blade, right? To slowly sharpen it to a specific point because the blade's on an angle. Like bringing awareness down to all of those moments is what gives you focus. When looking at the model, that's the only thing that you're looking at, right? Bringing in focus, Any of you guys have a specific routine that you guys go through to help you guys get in the space?
Yeah, I would say like we talked about, and well, first of all, I would say like in drawing, I find it like funny that there's so much focus on usually on warming up your muscles, for drawing. But I found that warming up the mind is so much more important. Like my muscles get warmed up pretty fast, but if I can't focus, it's game over. So one of the things that I've been doing lately is intentionally keeping myself inspired. Like I know if I look at great artwork, it makes me want to draw, so before I go into drawing, I warm up myself mentally for it, so when I sit down to draw, I'm already excited to get into it, if I have to wait until that moment to get inspired to draw, then most likely it's not going to happen.
For me, it's kind of like weird because I really don't like follow a schedule. Of course, I had like meetings and like mentorship. So everything that kind of like important things set up in Google Calendar so it can remind me. But like for myself, I don't have like kind of schedule because I don't like to force myself like to sit sometimes. It could be like right for some of you guys. You don't have to like force yourself into a like certain place. Yeah, just sit. Yeah, just like sit and draw. It doesn't matter like what happens, what's happening. So yeah, I just like kind of want to flow in that natural state and sit when I really want to. And if I don't want to, I just like let it go. I'll just like do some other things and then I'll sit to draw. And to say the other thing, I don't wait for the perfect moment either. Okay. So it'll be like, yeah, the sun will go like on this latitude, and only that is the time I'll be able to draw. So yeah, it doesn't fall. I doesn't follow that either as well.
I told
It's kind
Mike
of
once I was a great hitman, so I need a list of people to kill, and I kill one by one. So I like to put list things on this, like okay, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. I agree with Rutunje about not like 2 o'clock kill this guy. No, let me kill it when I want to kill it. If you need it to be killed for tomorrow, tomorrow is gonna be dead. Let's get rid of that example because I'm not into killing people, but you get the idea. The idea is I need to do something for tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow you have it done, but let me do it when I want to do it. Like I manage my schedule to get there, right? On the other hand, also Ritunjay say that he doesn't want to force it, no pun intended, but
right.
he wants but don't leave it like I don't want to do it right now, so I wait 2 hours more or 2 days. No, there's
Yeah.
gonna be a moment when you need to sit down, no matter if you want it or not. So think about it. When is the time to do it? You need to send this work done by tomorrow. Don't wait 1 hour before. I said this with the homework. Don't wait until the last moment to do your homework. Do it with time so you can redo it, find out things that you don't understand, so you can ask your teacher or whatever. But I like doing lists so you can kind of sort them out. Like this is gonna be easier to do, and let's put this one that is harder to the end or all the way around. But lists to me are the most I say the more that maybe work better. Just using lists.
Yeah. So you're like basically prioritizing your goals like in hierarchical form.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, if I just give myself a task and I don't put it on my calendar, I don't do it. I think I'm just so busy with other work that it's got to show up there. I wish I could do it the way you guys are describing. I think that's really awesome. But I know for me, if it doesn't hit the calendar, and you guys know this just from working with me, right? There's plenty of things where sometimes we've brought up an idea and it took us a year for me to really get to it. And this YouTube thing is one of those, right? We've been talking about getting the YouTube thing off the ground. It's not a new idea. We talked about this 2 years ago. And then finally this year, I was like, okay, I'm finally like ready to do this. I finally put it on the calendar. I think the pandemic actually helped. It helped me like have more time to get this whole thing going. And we have tons of other projects we want to work on and things that we want to share with you guys. And I'm usually the choke point because I'm busy with other things. So I have to like try to get it on the list, on my calendar, and yet I try to respect my own rest time, and I'm pretty adamant about that because I know to Swenley's point, like that's really, really important to me, and I don't have much of it, so I have to make sure that I keep it. So if something takes a month or 3 months or even a year to get to, then that's just the way it's going to be. So I think it probably has something to do with like how much work you have. What I have learned talking about the list is I've got lists and lists and lists of things, and that doesn't get me to do it either. If there's I like lists. I don't have anything against lists, but I find if I have too many, that's not good either. Like, so I created another list, which, right? So this other list is like, here's the 3 things I have to get done this week. It's a small list, no more than 3, right? Because the other list has like 30 things on it or 50. I've got a list right here. It's a Post-it with even more stuff on it, right? So I've got like my main list. I've got this little post-it list of things that come out of my mentorship meetings, right? And then I try to compile those lists into one list, and it becomes a bigger list. And I'm like, I prioritize them, right? I try to hierarchically set up what's most important. And then I go, okay, these are the ones I'm going to try to take care of this week. And sometimes I don't get them done, but I try to get them done, try to get them on the calendar. Even when they show up on the calendar, for some reason, I can't make it happen at that time because something else is more important, then it gets pushed out. You know, it's just the way it is. There's only so much time in the week, you know? So let's see, any questions from here? What about when goals seem to collide? Like, don't be afraid to draw messy, colliding with always draw your best. Well, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, that's a really great question. You know, I think it's really trying to figure out if they do collide or not. See, right now, your collision, this from Danielle, the collision is you think that doing your best means not drawing messy, right? But maybe they don't collide, right? Doing your best might be that it's okay to be messy in order for you to draw your best. That's actually such a great question. That really is something that stops a lot of people from achieving their goals, is they think there's a collision, and sometimes there really is. And then you have to prioritize. I think that's the other way out. But I would start with, are they really at odds with one another? Or is there a way that both of these things come together? Is my definition of one of these goals something different than maybe what it really is? And I think in your case, you know, I think in most of our cases, including me, I always have to remind myself that my best does not mean it has to be a finished, cleaned up drawing. That does not have to mean that's my best, right? So be aware of what you think best actually means and what messy means. You know, what are your own personal definitions for those things? See if there's some kind of route or, you know, some way of you weaving yourself through those two, you know?
Yeah, for me, it's like, for me, it's like, it's not colliding. It's actually like lining up. So like the more sense of freedom I have, like the more messier I draw. It not to be intended on like messiness. I don't like intentionally try to make my drawings messy, but it gives me a sense of freedom that, you know, I am not a cleanup artist, you know, until you're like, are a cleanup artist and you have to like draw one line, like for like 30 lines on a rough animation drawing. But yeah, just these ideas seem not to be collide for me. Like it really depends upon people and what kind of job you're doing. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. Your goals, set your goals. Your goal is to be clean, then don't be messy. Your goal is to understand something, and you need to be messy to understand it. Then be messy, understanding, then be clean. It's just steps. Set your goal.
So before we wrap up here, you know, what did we get out of today? First of all, it's like, how do you stay in peak performance when you're drawing? I think you need to define for yourself, first of all, what peak performance is. But for me, what I'm trying to share with you guys is I think it all comes down to focus. What helps me perform at my peak, if I really want to do my best work, best doesn't mean neat or sloppy, for instance, or messy. Best means I'm in the zone, and zone means I'm focused, right? And in my routine, like I said, I touch the paper, I'm aware of the graphite, the pencil, the weight of the pencil. Anything I can do to help me get grounded in the moment is going to bring focus for me. So it's one of the best pieces of advice I can give you today, is to allow everything. You know, you see that in movies. I can't think of a specific film, but I know I've seen in movies like somebody has hyper vigilance in like fighting or whatever, and like time slows down. It's almost like the Matrix or something, right? Like everything slows down and you get yourself into that headspace where you're aware of everything. There was a great Samurai Jack episode when the show just came out of Jack, like in, there were these three mice in a tower. Actually, it's one of my favorite episodes. And everything goes like really quiet and they're trying to hear him, and like him trying to get through the snow, I think, to the tower, and then trying to shoot at him. And he had to like get in this, before that, he had to get in this space of calmness. He sits there in the forest, like hearing the leaves and hearing animals walk and crunching snow. It's like, you got to get into a place where you're aware, you know, you bring, I think Diego used this word, you know, you want to bring awareness to the whole moment. And I think that drives it. So, you know, got to stay healthy, right? If you're healthy, you're not going to be able to do anything, right? So make sure you take care of your health. Don't take granted, you know, don't take it for granted. And last but not least, see if you can create a routine. You know, I think routine is actually really good. My wife is excellent, actually, at always trying to like set up an environment for herself when she's working. I used to tease her about it all the time because I didn't care about that. I was just like, I'm just going to focus on my thing. But she's great at setting up certain kind of music, or having a candle lit in the room with maybe a certain scent or a smell, you know, drinking a cup of coffee or tea. Like, some people really are excellent at setting up a work environment for themselves, a routine, and then that allows them to kind of sink into the moment, right? So that might be your way, right? So anyway, we just want to bring to your attention, try to stay at peak performance. It's not going to happen all the time, but when it does, also, one last thing, when it does, be aware of it. You know, going back to my college years, when I started understanding that, oh my God, I'm doing really well today, I would go, why? Like, what is happening today? And write that down, right? It's you bringing your own self-awareness to the table and understanding how you personally are getting into that space. What is it today that did it? You know, did you walk into class?
How does
Yeah,
it feel to be good, to be in that state? Feel what you're feeling, what's the weather,
yeah,
what's going on right there, that you're having that moment. So then you
yeah,
can
And
reproduce it.
once you
yeah,
like started feeling it, just get addicted to that kind of feeling. You'll be always be thriving for it, you know. I'm pretty
yeah.
guaranteed
You
about
can't.
that.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of need to know what it is. So if you can get there, you want to be aware of those moments and write them down or record it in your phone, whatever you got to do to remember, like, this is what got me here. And over time, you'll start learning how to improve that. You'll learn how to get into that state faster. It won't be as, at the beginning, it might be a little tougher to get into it. And then you learn how to more efficiently and quickly just go, boom, I'm in that zone. I know how to go from being totally outside of it, where I'm totally distracted. I had some kind of argument. I had a bad commute into work. I got to sit down, perform. Boom, I can just do it, right? You want to get to a place where you're able to switch over and just get back into the headspace, you know? All right, guys. Well, thanks for spending your time with us this week. By the way, if you ever have a subject or something you want us to talk about here, you can always email me at mike@drawingforce.com. It's very, I look at my email all day long, so feel free to do that. Thank you guys, Swanley, Diego, and Mrityunjay, for supporting the cause and supporting the session today and coming in with your own personal advice and transparency. And we will see all of you again, of course, next Friday. Next weekend, I believe, I guess just to do a plug here, I think next weekend is CTN, right? CTNX. So I haven't put in my schedule for that yet. I'm going to take a look at that this weekend, actually. I'll probably try to do a couple of live sessions. So I'll post the stuff on Instagram. And if you're on the website and you're in the email newsletter, I'll probably put it there as well. So hopefully I'll see you guys next weekend for that too. All right, guys, take care. Thanks again. And we will see you. Yeah, we'll